Alright, hello and welcome to the mini video series set I'm doing on techniques used in medieval Islamic bookbinding. Today I'm going to show you how to glue the spine. So the reason we do that is because the unsupported link stitch on 2 stations is not exactly sturdy or stable, and that's not good for the long-term health of the book. So what we do is I've got this press here. It's of a vaguely similar design to what they would have used, but made using modern materials. 2 pieces of wood. I used blocks of wood, and then I just drilled a hole through the center of them, stuck in a threaded rod, and capped it off with wing nuts. And it's like that on both sides. In medieval period, they would have used rope to tie the 2 ends together. It doesn't really matter. You can use anything you've got at home if you don't have a press like this, as long as it can provide clamping force in that direction, and evenly on both sides. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your sewn text block and you're going to put it in the press, and the goal here is that you want about 2 fingers worth sticking up on top, and you're going to kind of gently close your press, tighten it down most of the way but not completely tight. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing right now, except for the way the wing nuts work. And then you're going to kind of fiddle with it a little bit. You're trying to get these ends even and lined up, and then you're also trying to make sure that this top part is flat, that there's no like weird slanty thing going on. I'll show you in a second what I'm talking about. Alright, so this is about as even as it's going to get. If you have your holes perfectly punched all in a row, the exact distance, then these will be a little bit more even than these ones are, but clearly I didn't have it punched perfectly. Alright, and side view. So like I said, approximately 2 fingers. The point of that is to be able to get a little bit of gap here in between the gatherings to get the glue into it without having the whole thing flopping all over the place while you're working on it. And you want this to be flat, with no like bulge in the middle or weird slanty thing going on. So this looks good. Let's see if I can give you a demonstration of what it would look like if it wasn't good. That would not be good, because see how it's not lined up. So loosen it a little bit, slide it around, get it as even and lined up and straight and stuff as you can. Takes a little finagling, like at the moment. The closer to center you work on, the more even the pressure is. The easier it is to slide stuff around. So in my case, what's currently going on is that the outside gatherings are higher than the center gatherings, so it's sort of inversely rounded, whereas I want it flat. Alright, once I've got it where I like it, fully tighten the press to hold it in place while you work. Alright, for the next step you need glue. I use this stuff, archival quality pure wheat starch, which you mix with water and microwave to form a paste. This is also a good option. It's pH neutral PVA, again archival quality, designed for bookbinders. Pretty much any kind of PVA that dries clear-ish or white and flexible will function just fine, or should. I haven't tested them, but they should work. So like Elmer's glue, or I think tacky glue, or whatever you call it. But like I said, I use the pure wheat starch. It forms a paste, looks kind of like that. I found that the best way to apply it is with your fingers. Grab a glomb it on. The goal here is to get it on the spine, not down the sides of the book, but you know, you can clean it up as you go. You're trying to get it roughly 1 millimeter-ish deep in between the gatherings. So you just kind of press it in, and then there's enough flexibility here that they will separate a little bit to let the glue in. We're going to be pressing out the excess when we're done, so go ahead and glom it on as much as you want. Go nuts, make sure you get it all in there. Completely cover everything, go over the stitching too. this is what provides a good amount of the structure of the book on the spine, so you want to make sure it's done right and you have plenty of glue. Alright, I think I've got all the gaps, so next step is make sure that the edges are clean and there's no glue down the sides. Down the sides is bad, on the spine is good. And then grab a paper towel and clean your fingers off. If you're using PVA or other kinds of glue, you can use just a paintbrush is fine. Preferably one you don't like much, because you may or may not ever get the glue out completely, depending on how long you wash it for. And then you loosen up the press just a little bit, just enough that the book can slide down. And you're sliding it down so that the edges of the gathering, or the spine, are lined up with the top surface of the press. I'll show you a side view in a second once I've tightened it up. Hold it in place. Alright, that should be good from that side. See, lined up. What you're seeing there as an excess bit is actually just the glue that's being pressed out. So I line my presses with parchment paper because that way any extra glue, basically it means I can't accidentally glue the book to the press, because it will just glue itself to the parchment paper and it will peel off of the parchment paper very easily. Waxed paper also works for this. Generally, Saran wrap might work. I haven't really tested it, but it theoretically would work. And then you pretty much just go in and scrape off all this excess glue. So you should wind up, when you're done with this clean side, right now it looks like this dirty side with the excess glue. And you just swipe it across. The other thing to kind of keep an eye on is to make sure that this and this are the same dimensions. In this case it doesn't quite look like they are, which means this side isn't tight enough. That looks better. If you wind up with significant bowing of the gap in your wood, you might honestly have the press a little bit too tight. That's unnecessarily tight. Like right now, I'm pretty sure mine's unnecessarily tight. So I'm going to loosen it up just a little bit. The point here is to keep the book pressed thin while you work, not so much to squeeze it to death, like I'm doing right now. Gosh. Tightened it so tight that the wing doesn't want to loosen. There we go. That's better. There we go. See, still in there nice and secure, but there's no longer this bowing going on in the wood from being way over tightened on the ends. And then you just set it aside, let it dry. For the wheat starch glue in a dry climate, it can dry in as short as a couple of hours. I haven't really tested it for all the others, but probably overnight is generally more than sufficient. So that's what I do. So yeah, next time I will show you gluing the spine lining. It's really super simple and takes about a minute.